Coming up, the staggering impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on Indiana food producers could top $500 million. The study's co-author, Purdue professor Jason Lusk, is here to go inside those numbers. Plus, a CARMEL startup, KINETIC Advantage, expanding its corporate headquarters with plans to create as many as 225 jobs. CEO Marty McFarland explains how technology is driving the independent floor plan company. And the pandemic has impacted the way we eat and enjoy happy hour. Yelp's Brittany Smith joins us with a look at some great food and drink trends for 2021. Details on those stories and much more ahead on this edition of Inside Indiana Business. Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick. Agrinovus Indiana is out with a new study with a stunning bottom line showing that aggregate losses from the pandemic cost Indiana food producers an estimated $500 million, sending shockwaves through a food chain going through disruption and evolution at the same time. Researchers analyzed losses in five key areas: corn, soybeans, hogs, dairy, and eggs. And with more on the numbers and why they could actually point to opportunities in the future, pleased to be joined by the co-author of the research, the head of Purdue University's Department of Agricultural Economics, Jason Lusk. And Jason, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay, the number kind of grabs people, $500 million. Did that surprise you? How substantial is that number?
It's a substantial number, and Indiana's agricultural producers were certainly hard hit, a lot of consternation in the early part of the pandemic. It's also important, though, to put it in the context of these sectors, which are probably $7 or $8 billion for the state annually. So, yeah, 500 is a real loss, but you know, it's one that I think we've been able to work through, and we've had a little more positive news later this fall and spring that I think have put producers in a better state. But there was a lot of pain and suffering and concern this spring and summer.
Yeah. Talk about that in a moment, but in particular, some of the areas that I mentioned: corn, beans, pork, dairy, and eggs, those key product areas. In particular, your research found that pork producers and also corn grain farmers hit perhaps especially hard.
No doubt that's true. You know, there's the dollars, but then there's also the pain and suffering, if you will, of the people that had to live through those experiences. I think particularly the pork sector, when you had to shut down the packing plants because of worker illnesses, you had farmers that were worried about worst case scenarios that they never wanted to think about possibilities of euthanizing hogs, that kind of stress. Those are the things you don't see in the numbers, but I think, but were certainly very pronounced in the sector.
Yeah, you mentioned that commodity prices coming back, also government assistance. Perhaps those factors, will that mitigate you know, producers going out of business? Will that help the overall situation?
It'll definitely help. I mean, the federal disaster programs that have come about in response to CARES have pumped literally billions of dollars into the agricultural sector, so much so that, you know, overall 2020 across the entire United States, USDA is actually expecting net farm income to be higher than it's been the last 3 or 4 years, mainly due to government payments. So I think that's helped provide a floor below where some of these losses would have hit otherwise. And then we've had some improvement in commodity prices because China's picked up some of their buying of agricultural products coming out of some of that trade war.
Yeah, Jason, I think it's interesting. We talk about the complexity of agriculture today and how things are set up. Interesting statistic. In the 1960s, the average grocery store offered about 6,000 products. Today, that number is likely more than 34,000 products. The supply chain is so complex. How does that factor into what you looked at there and really the impact here in Indiana and beyond?
Well, I think if we learned anything from this pandemic, it's that a lot of us didn't know very much about where our food came from. And even for folks like me that spend a career studying the food supply chain, we realized, wow, it's even more complicated than I thought it was. and all the steps that are required to get that product from the farm to the processor to the distributor to our grocery store. It's different for all the different products, and it involves multiple linkages in that supply chain. And it goes to show that we take a lot for granted in our food supply chain. And hopefully, one of the outcomes of this is we realize how much we need to think of the people that are involved in our food supply chain, whether it's that worker in the grocery store, the guy that drives the truck, or the person in the food processing plant. Yeah,
Jason, you talk about the negative impact, obviously, but you see the potential for opportunity coming out of the pandemic as well for agriculture.
Yeah, maybe the corollary of that complexity is I think there's a real opportunity. It's one of the recommendations of our report that we did with EY for AgriNovus, that there's a real opportunity to increase our collaboration here, a real opportunity to get to know the people in front of and behind you in the food supply chain, so that when we have challenges like this again, we know who to call, we know what our opportunities are, we can maybe do some of that emergency and contingency planning that we weren't quite prepared for this time around.
All right, some very interesting results from a brand new report from AgriNovus Indiana. Again, that organization itself, one of the reasons why there's a bit of an optimistic outlook in agriculture in Indiana. Jason Lusk, professor and also head of the Department of Ag Economics at Purdue. Always great to have you on the show. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks, Gary.
All right. Well, INDYCAR has announced the start of the 2021 NTT INDYCAR Series season will again be pushed back because of the pandemic. The series was originally slated to begin with a road race March 7 in St. Petersburg, but now will open at Barber Motorsports Park in Alabama, April 18. It is the third change to the 2021 schedule since it was announced in October. Well, can you imagine launching a business in the middle of a global pandemic? That's exactly how Carmel-based KINETIC Advantage got its footing, and it's paid off in a big way. We will have more on the company's just announced expansion plans coming up. It's time to go inside innovation, brought to you by Allegion, pioneering safety. Well, Carmel-based KINETIC Advantage, a financial services provider for auto dealers, is expanding its footprint and adding some 225 jobs. In less than a year, KINETIC has launched in 25 markets around the country, securing more than $225 million of initial debt and equity funding to support that expansion. I'm pleased to be joined on the show this week by CEO Marty McFarland with more on what's fueling growth. And Marty, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Gary.
First of all, let's give the viewers the thumbnail sketch of the business model at KINETIC Advantage. You talk about being an automotive floor plan financing company, really providing capital to these independent dealers?
Sure. About 10 to 12 million cars a year are sold by independent dealers to automotive consumers. It's kind of the natural go-to for a lot of folks looking to buy that secondhand car, or really, kind of their mainstream vehicle to go to and from work. And the used car dealer is facing a lot of challenges today. They are really hardworking entrepreneurs. A lot of people don't think about that, but these guys get up and work really hard every day. They're faced, with the big franchise dealers as competitors. The market is moving to digital, and the cost of the inventory continues to go up. So what we do is we provide a very seamless to the retail consumer.
Marty, you launched less than a year ago. You're already making some headlines. In fact, this week announcing plans to expand your headquarters in Carmel, $4 million investment, perhaps as many as 225 jobs. Talk about the reasons behind that investment.
Sure. We believe there's a really big opportunity in the space, given the size and scope of the market and my team's background, we're all experienced in this space. We created what is now the largest company in the space, and elected to kind of go on our own and stand up a new company to help with that expansion. Carmel and Indiana were a natural place for us to land. It's a great business environment, great workforce, you know, highly motivated workforce, great educated workforce. We started out with 30 people in July. We're up to 75 Hoosiers today. And over the next handful of years, we expect to grow to, you know, another 225 to 250 Indiana employees here locally.
Yeah, and Marty, technology is a big part of what you do, and really at the heart, leveraging technology to do what you do. Yes.
You know, like everything in life, everything's moving to digital, right? And it's no different in the auto business. And as you know, that's all been accelerated through the pandemic. So all of our dealers, naturally, because they're not franchise dealers, they have to go out and secure their inventory through auto auctions. Historically, that was always the physical auction, right? They go to the building and, you know, look over the inventory and buy it, you know, right in front of them live. Well, today, a lot of that is done digitally, and it continues to be more so all the time. The technology that we're building is really world-class. It's really the first of its kind. It's really focused on digital transactions. Dealers need to be highly efficient in securing their inventory, and funding is part of that process. Sources to make these transactions really fluid, allow them to outfit their lot, and allow that consumer to buy at, frankly, a better price because the efficiencies are.
A lot of people paying attention. Altamont Capital Partners, private equity firm in San Francisco, with a major infusion of capital last November into the company. Marty McFarland, thanks for joining us this week. Serial entrepreneur. This is, I think, your third Indiana company. We'll look forward to following your progress and have you on the show again in the future.
Thank you, Gary.
All right. Well, up next, it's Indiana's unofficial state food, the tenderloin sandwich. In this week's Around Indiana segment, we hit the state's tenderloin lovers trail from Elwood to Winchester to Pendleton. Well, now local businesses are serving up a Hoosier favorite, and why they say they need your support now more than ever. Here's what's making news now around Indiana. Brought to you by Chapman Heating, Air Conditioning and Plumbing, the man for all seasons, Chapman, chapmanheating.com. Well, the Indiana Foodways Alliance launched in 2007 with a mission to promote locally owned restaurants around the state. The nonprofit's biggest initiative is the creation of 19 culinary trails that feature everything from pies to ice cream to beer and wine. This week, Around Indiana reporter Mary Rachel Redmond travels the Tenderloin Lovers Trail, tasting and talking to Hoosier restaurant owners.
Nothing says Indiana like a colossal, golden crispy pork tenderloin sandwich.
Indiana likes the pork tenderloin. That's the Mac Daddy here. I get customers all the time from South Carolina or maybe from Florida. They've never heard of a tenderloin.
And there's no better way to sample the unofficial sandwich of Indiana than hopping on the Tenderloin Lovers Trail.
We have 72 stops on the Tenderloin Lovers Trail. This is a great way to eat your way through Indiana.
My first stop, the Tin Plate in Elwood.
We start with a 10-ounce pork tenderloin, put it in the fryer, pin it down at the bottom of the fryer for a couple minutes to let it gain its shape, and then fry it to a delicious golden brown. And I'll tell you, they are wonderful. Look at that. What do you think?
That is a beauty.
Pick it up and fold it over. Look at that, huh?
Hey. And needless to say, the Tin Plate Tenderloin didn't disappoint. Next stop, Mrs. Wick's in Winchester, known for serving one heck of a tenderloin, but perhaps most famous for their sugar cream pie.
The Indiana Foodways Alliance and their trails had put us on the map. A lot of people that really enjoy food tourism, and it's a cool thing to do, to go and try different restaurants with these similar foods within our state. It supports local businesses, and it also drives some tourism to our area, which really helps our community.
And the final stop on my eating adventure, the Bank in Pendleton.
The Bank restaurant was built on the tenderloin sandwich. It is our #1 seller every year. In this area, it's a bragging right. If you're going to sell it, you better make it the best you can do.
So what exactly makes Brammer's tenderloin so extra special?
Well, I know what makes it different, but I'm not going to tell you what makes it different. We have to have a little bit of a secret.
But it's no secret that as the pandemic approaches the 1-year mark, it's these small Hoosier-owned restaurants that have been hit the hardest.
It's been incredibly hard. In fact, one time the only money in the bank was the government money. And then when you take off 50% of your seats, that makes it tough as well.
We are down about 40% for the year of 2020 through the help of Indiana Foodways. We have still been able to get people to come in from out of town.
When we get feedback from those local owners, they're happy. They're seeing those increased sales. We hope we're making an impact. That is our goal.
In fact, thanks to the efforts of IFA, Indiana boasts the most culinary trails of any state in America, and it hasn't gone unnoticed.
We've been mentioned in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, USA Today, Pop Sugar. So we're very proud of that. And, you know, our mission is to support those locally owned restaurants throughout the state. And we feel like the Indiana Culinary Trails is the way to do that.
Mary Rachel Redmond, Inside Indiana Business.
And to check out all 19 Indiana culinary trails, just head to IndianaFoodways.com. Also making headlines this week around Indiana, the South Bend Elkhart Regional Partnership says per capita personal income continues to grow in the region, but at a slower rate than in recent years and not as quickly as the rest of the country. The report, which is based on data from the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, found that more than $34.5 billion of total personal income circulated in the region's 5 counties in 2019. That's an increase of about $500 million from 2018. Partnership says the region's average per capita income was about $47,000, which is about 84% of the national average. University of Evansville faculty and alumni are protesting a proposed realignment plan. Under that proposed plan, the university would cut the music, philosophy, and religion and electrical engineering and computer science departments. The move would also eliminate about 40 faculty jobs. The American Association of University Professors issued a warning to the president, saying the plan violates its principles of shared governance. However, the UE Board of Trustees is offering its support for the president's plan. The Innovate Within pitch competition is now accepting applications for Hoosiers ages 14 to 18 to pitch their innovations. Because of the pandemic, this year's event will again be virtual. Innovate Within allows high school students, either individually or in teams, to come up with an idea, develop it, and pitch it to the judges. Participants take part in regional competitions. The winners will take part in a state competition for a chance to win $25,000 in scholarships and additional prizes. Applications accepted through February 28th. Well, no doubt 2020 was a tough year for locally owned businesses in Indiana, but places like Sun King Brewery are looking to cash in and grow this year by relying on interesting data. Yelp's Brittany Smith joins us with the lowdown on 2021 food and drink trends in this month's Trendiana. Well, as the go-to guide for all things local, people are constantly searching Yelp for the answer to that eternal question, what should I eat? In 2020, many look for familiar flavors and comfort foods while sheltering in place. But this year, foodies may discover that next great food and drink trend. Yelp Senior Regional Lead of Community and Marketing, Brittany Smith, joins us with more in this month's Trendiana segment. As always, Brittany, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Gary.
Well, as I mentioned, and it makes sense, in 2020, people quarantined, sheltering in place, comfort foods, takeout, carry out were the order of the day. But do you sense that possibly may be switching this year?
Certainly, yeah. We look at review data from the past year, 2019 to 2020, and we're seeing certain phrases or keyword searches that people are looking for with their food. And we all need a little adventure right now, and that's definitely no exception when it comes to the culinary world.
Good, and we're going to take, as you do each and every appearance on the show, take a quick trip around the state to show some great examples. And keep in mind, these businesses, they are most all the time entrepreneurs and innovators out there trying to make their business go. We begin with a trend of brown sugar boba.
That's right. That's right. And if you're new to boba tea, it's also known as bubble tea. It's a year-round favorite drink. It's comes from Taiwan, and there's so many flavors that are emerging. But you can find it at La Tea Bubble Tea Lounge in West Lafayette, and they have a location on Mass Ave in Indy. It's really flavorful. You can pick from all these different teas, but now you're finding it in boba flan, popsicles, and the rate of reviews mentioning boba, brown sugar boba, is up 185%.
Wow. And you can get those in Indianapolis and West Lafayette. Up next, a trend for hot honey.
Yeah, people are pouring hot honey now. This is spicy honey on waffles. I've seen it on pizza. So many different classic foods that are now having hot honey poured on it. And Nashville Spice Company in Nashville, Indiana, carries their own infused Indiana honey with habanero peppers. Give a little kick to whatever you're making. And you can actually even order their hot honey online if you want to try it at home.
Yeah, and it seems to me you're seeing fried chicken everywhere in a variety of ways. And I know that trend, you can find it at Shawnee's Secret Chicken. That's right here in Indianapolis at the International Marketplace.
Yeah, this is a really tasty one. If you're familiar with chapati, which is a Pakistani Indian restaurant, it's actually the same owners connected, and they have made a beautiful version that's Pakistani. It's flavored with it's halal fried chicken with tandoori and spicy flavors, great for carry out. And the rate of reviews mentioning fried chicken are up 26%. So this is a good excuse to go get some fried chicken with a little twist.
All right, now we talk a trend. This is actually something that really began to spike maybe a couple of years ago. Hard seltzer, and Sun King Brewery and Beer Brewery, two of the great craft breweries here in Indiana, are really selling a lot of hard seltzer.
Definitely. We saw this in 2019 rise, and then going into 2020, it keeps going up 189% review mentions. And a lot of people are just looking for a healthier option. They're lower in calories and sugar, and Beer Brewery and Sun King have been very wise to jump on that trend. Beer Brewery specifically is offering a pina colada and a black raspberry burst flavor at their two locations. Sun King Brewery, which you can find it at stores, or there's several central Indiana locations, also has lemonade, mango, black cherry. So there's a lot of fun options on the market right now.
All right, we have to be quick here, Brittany, but Mexican food is also trending for 2021.
Yeah, birria tacos specifically. It is a juicy, spicy or spice meat stew from Jalisco, Mexico, and you can find it at Enadina Mexican Market and Taqueria in Whiteland, Indiana, as well as several other spots throughout the state. It is delicious and very juicy.
All right, as always, a great tour around the state of Indiana with some trends for the year ahead. Brittany Smith from Yelp, thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay. Well, still ahead in our second half hour, why so many Hoosiers in minority communities are afraid to get the COVID-19 vaccine. What's being done to ease those fears and promote getting the shot? Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta has some answers. A shot in the arm to protect Hoosiers from the COVID-19 virus. But many minority communities don't trust the process. Why? And how are organizations like the Red Cross working to change perceptions about the potentially life-saving vaccine? Well, statistics show that Black and Latinx people are up to 3 times more likely to contract COVID-19, and their outcomes are worse than whites as well. Deaths are also disproportionately higher in communities with larger Black populations. Health leaders are now worried about another trend that centers on COVID-19 vaccines. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta has that story. Kylie.
Well, thank you, Gary. Studies are showing that the vast majority of Black and Latinx people don't trust the coronavirus vaccines. In a recent survey, only 14% of Black respondents mostly or completely trust the vaccine, and only 34% of Latinx people. Confidence in the vaccine safety is the #1 predictor of getting vaccinated. So a new coalition in Indiana is gaining steam to help Black and Latinx Hoosiers voice their concerns and grow their trust in the COVID-19 vaccines. Leading the charge is the American Red Cross. Chad Priest is the Chief Executive Officer of the Indiana region. He joins me now, along with Reverend David Green, Senior Pastor at the Purpose of Life Ministries in Indianapolis. Thank you both for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pastor Green, let's start with you. Blacks have the lowest level of trust in the vaccine, only 14%. Give us a little bit of background or context why this mistrust exists.
The mistrust exists because of numerous items that have occurred in the healthcare sector across the country. It starts with the Tuskegee syphilis experiment that took place in Alabama. While the event took place in the Deep South, many of the people living in the North now have their roots in the South. And that experiment is something that is still talked about in African American homes. And not only do we have those historical events, we also have local events. When you consider the recent death of Dr. Susan Moore, who died of COVID-19 after complaining about racist treatment in the hospital, that also contributes to mistrust. Many African Americans have concluded you can't trust the system, and it causes African Americans to be hesitant about healthcare as a whole. It's viewed as something to be avoided and not necessarily truly a place where it's applicable and will help all people.
Okay, all right. So, Chad, the American Red Cross is really leading an effort to try to make Black people more accepting, also Latinx, of the vaccine. Explain what your goals are for the coalition, what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. So the Red Cross alleviates suffering in lots of ways, but we primarily do it in partnership with all the other human service agencies in central Indiana and actually throughout the state. So what we've done is leverage the expertise of these agencies, who are really experts in communities, to join us, not to encourage people, hey, you must go get vaccinated, but to engage in dialogue about the vaccine. We've got great evidence to suggest that when people have a chance to talk about how they are perceiving the vaccine, their intent to vaccinate, the likelihood of eventually vaccinating actually goes up. So we're looking to amplify the public health messaging around the vaccine, but do it in a way that really generates conversation at the local level. And we're doing that through all of these partners.
And you mentioned one thing off camera that I thought was really important. You said part of this is you have to honor their hesitancy. I thought that was very interesting and a good point as well.
That's right. It is not unreasonable to be hesitant and think through a process of getting vaccinated. We support people in their decision-making process, and that's the key, ultimately, to increase acceptance.
Okay, Pastor Green, trust is such a big part of this effort, and hearing from voices that these communities trust. So explain just that importance of building that trust and actually just speaking to these people, voices that they already trust. And then also, what are you hearing back from the community so far as acceptance? Is it changing at all?
Well, trust is huge. The COVID-19 vaccine cannot be seen as a transaction only. It's critical that organizations in the city, such as the Red Cross, who's taken the lead, see this as an opportunity, as a bridge to relationship building. And that's what Chad is attempting to do, build relationships in the African American community, and that will begin to build trust. This relationship must extend beyond COVID-19 and look at many of the health disparities that exist in the African American community. I'm hearing that, and clearly believe this, that most African Americans know that one day they have to take the vaccine. Because they value the importance of family and coming back together, they will take the vaccine. But they need to be made comfortable that they can take the vaccine without any unannounced side effects. And so they need to see leadership, they need to be hearing and confirming that this vaccine is a safe vaccine to take.
All right, and you're really focusing in on 3 areas, the Martindale-Brightwood area on Indy's west side, the Etna neighborhood, and Gary, Brownstown in southern Indiana. Chad, only a few seconds left. Just tell us quickly what you've done so far for this coalition.
Well, the coalition is convening conversations in these communities. So both in Etna, Indianapolis, and in Brownstown, we're going to leverage those conversations for a public-facing campaign. But again, it all comes down to dialogue. And the Red Cross role really is just to bring people to the table, empower them to have the discussions, and as Reverend Green said, really talk about long-term relationships in these communities, which is the key to ensuring community resilience.
And you mentioned you'll be starting in these 3 areas, but you really expect this to sort of trickle down through the entire state, correct?
That's certainly our hope. Your Red Cross works all over the state. Many of our partner agencies do as well. And we want all people to be able to benefit from the conversations and dialogue that are occurring.
All right. Well, Chad, Pastor Green, thank you both for being on the show today, and good luck with the coalition.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Very good. Gary, back to you.
All right, Kylie, thank you. Well, when Indiana University launched its Grand Challenges Initiative in 2016, its goal was to make life better for Hoosiers all over the state of Indiana with a focus on 3 areas: fighting the addiction crisis, pushing health initiatives, and tackling environmental challenges around the state. IU's second Grand Challenges Initiative prepared for environmental change, aimed at helping business and government leaders develop a plan to tackle climate change that impacts the way Hoosiers live, work, and do business. According to Indiana University Environmental Institute's Hoosier Life Survey, more than half, 58%, believe the environmental change is as adversely affecting the country right now. The IU Environmental Resilience Institute is playing a key role in helping well over 24 communities around the state evaluate environmental needs and build an action plan to combat climate change. And for more on progress, we're pleased to be joined this week by IU Environmental Resilience Director Janet McCabe and Goshen Mayor Jeremy Stutzman. His city, one of the first cities to participate in the initiative, very closely aligned with it as well. And welcome to you both to the program.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Janet, I'll start with
Thank
you and offering congratulations because as many of our viewers may know, you were recently nominated as Deputy Administrator of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in the Biden administration. Quite an honor. Your thoughts as you begin before long the confirmation process?
Oh, it is quite an honor. I just am so humbled by it and appreciative of the opportunity to serve, assuming that the Senate confirmation process goes well, which is what we're preparing for now. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, you've certainly put your heart and soul into this Grand Challenges initiative focused on climate change and the impact on communities around the state of Indiana. One thing I thought interesting, because I think the last time you were on the show, we talked about results from a survey that really suggests that Hoosiers are understanding more and more the effects of climate change and the importance of climate change.
That's for sure. And they're seeing it in their own backyards, in their streets when they flood, at their bird feeder, when the birds are coming sooner to the bird feeder and they're fewer and different kinds. Businesses that are seeing it as they deal with extreme weather. Farmers are seeing it as their fields are flooded and they can't get their crops into the ground. So it's here, and scientists at IU, Purdue, and around Indiana really have a pretty good handle on the kinds of things that we can expect here in the Midwest. So the whole point of the Grand Challenges was to face that the way Hoosiers do, and what can IU do? What resources and expertise can IU bring to help solve these problems for Hoosiers?
How is this initiative specifically? How are you working with cities and towns around the state? I think well over 24 now you're connected with. What specifically are you doing?
Yeah, so we realized that this was a niche that we thought we could fill. There are a lot of resources for cities and towns around climate change, but a lot of them honestly are focused on coastal areas or great big huge cities, and they're not tailored for the kinds of communities that we have in here in Indiana, like Goshen and Kokomo and New Albany and places like that. So we thought that we could bring tailored information to those cities from a trusted source here, their own university at IU. And we've designed some programs to deliver information to them, but also to help with capacity, because one thing that cities don't have is extra person power or money lying around to hire people. So we can bring in trained students from IU to spend an entire summer working with a mayor or city council to start documenting greenhouse gas emissions, look for sustainability opportunities, and to work with that community to build a plan.
Yeah, Mayor Stutzman, why did you engage in this process? What attracted you to engage in this process with IU?
So coming into my job as mayor, I have a biology degree, and the environment's always been very important to me. As mayor, I wanted to find a way to help reduce the carbon footprint of the city of Goshen and find any and all projects that we could do to really start addressing that challenge. When IU came to us, being part of their cohort has been absolutely amazing. It's brought us resources and allowed us to move a lot faster than we would have just on our own. We've got some great resources here in our community. And through many institutions we have here in Goshen. But being part of IU's cohort has definitely accelerated our projects, and we're getting to the point where we're now implementing, not just talking and planning. Yeah,
Mayor, is there an economic development component to this? Does participating in the focusing on the clean energy solution or solutions, if you will, does that trickle down to attracting and retaining business?
I believe it does. As communities, we're always looking at economic development and how can we better do that. Years ago, the businesses were looking at what infrastructure were in your communities that they could utilize. Then we started hearing them looking for communities that had great quality of life, bike trails, where their staff could be out and about and happy when they're not working. Now we're hearing more and more of businesses that are searching out green communities that are really forward thinking and working hard to better the environment. So there's definitely an economic development piece to these projects.
All right, it's a major piece of the Grand Challenges initiatives, focusing on the environment and communities all over the state. And Janet McCabe and Mayor Jeremy Stutzman, thank you both for joining us. And Janet, good luck to you in the confirmation process as well.
Thanks so much. It's great to
thank you both.
Here.
Well, up next, a potential game changer in Indiana's quest to boost workforce readiness. It's a unique apprenticeship program that helps high school students earn high school and college credits while gaining valuable real-world work experience at the same time. We'll have details when we come back. Well, Hoosier High School students have a new opportunity to prepare themselves for the workforce thanks to a new apprenticeship model launched by Employ Indy and Ascend Indiana. Now, the organizations say modern apprenticeship is a paid, work-based learning experience that helps students not only earn a high school diploma, but college credits, as well as that professional work experience. And we get details on this unique partnership from Indianapolis Airport Authority Executive Director Mario Rodriguez and Employ Indy Chief Strategy Officer Marie McIntosh. And welcome to you both.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Marie, let's talk about specifics, because this, and there's so much focus certainly on workforce. This is a paid, people think apprenticeship. This is truly an apprenticeship where kids are getting work experience. Detail how it goes.
It's so exciting, really. It's such a cool new initiative for our community. But the way that it works is that juniors in high school would start a paid apprenticeship with a training company after they've chosen an occupation to be with that company. Things in IT, financial services, positions like staff accountant or junior coder or HR associate. And once they're chosen by the company to work with them, they split their time between high school and working at the company for 3 years. And by the end, they have not only a high school diploma, but also that post-secondary credit, like you mentioned, and importantly, cash in their pocket and a professional network that will help them in the long run.
Yeah, so they are actually getting that high school academic experience, college credits, as well as the work experience. Marie, is this modeled, I know it's tailored specifically to Indianapolis and Central Indiana, but is this modeled after any other programs?
Yes, we at Ascend and Employ Indy are all about sort of economic prosperity and economic mobility, and we looked to other partner organizations around the world who have done some of this work already, including CareerWise Colorado, and also the Swiss model has been a big influence in our community too.
Mario, Indianapolis Airport Authority recognized annually as the best airport in North America. You're one of 15 or 16, I think, companies so far, organizations participating. Why participate in this? Why do you want to engage in this apprenticeship program?
Well, you know, it's a no-brainer, Gary. It really is a no-brainer. In order to stay as a world-class facility, we need world-class people. And Employ Indy and Ascend are actually providing that. This is what everybody has been asking for. And Employ Indy was able to craft an incredible model that gives us the ability to bring in students, train them, hopefully keep them and give them a career. And as our older workforce is retiring, which they are, 54% of our workforce will be retired within the next 5 years.
Wow. So
that creates an incredible void. And we didn't think about it deeply until we got to this point and Employ Indy using basically a European model, basically an Americanized European model, which is fantastic. It's giving us the opportunity to not only help these kids, but help the organization.
So, Mario, the airport, I think, a good example of some of the experiences that these young people will get. Talk about the students who will be engaged at the airport, because they could get perhaps multiple work-related hands-on experience.
Oh, absolutely. We have everything from public safety, fire and police that are specialized to airports, to engineering, construction, plumbing, electricians. I mean, like the whole gambit. This is a small city with a roving or with a moving population of about 10 million people on an annual basis coming in and out of here. Yeah. So you've got this incredible opportunity to do a lot of things that they may not have even thought we would do.
Marie, as we wrap up, this is the first year. It's a pilot program. You've already got 30 students in this first cohort, to 15, 16 employers, 5 school systems. Is the anticipation this will become a regular program, you know, an ongoing program?
That is the anticipation. I mean, we're working hard with all of our partners to expand. We're already working on our next cohort of employers, and there are many who have expressed interest. We're trying to get their plans in place so that they can welcome these students in and really build on the tradition of apprenticeships that's existed for a long time in our community, but is now specific to new industries that are really growing tremendously in Indianapolis.
An apprenticeship program focused on fueling the workforce pipeline. Marie McIntosh, Chief Strategy Officer at Employ Indy. Mario Rodriguez, the Executive Director at the Indianapolis Airport Authority. Thank you both. We'll look forward to following this. A very interesting and unique partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you so much.
Also making headlines this week, another new airline coming to Indianapolis International Airport. Minnesota-based Sun Country Airlines planning to bring 2 nonstop flights to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Orlando later this year. The Minneapolis flight will run twice per week beginning in late May. The flight to Orlando to begin in early September. Still ahead, the life lessons athletics teaches young people to survive and thrive in the business world. We'll look at unified high school athletics in Indiana, geared toward helping students with disabilities, its mission, the payoff for athletes, and a new organization helping to train future coaches when we return. Those who don't jump will never fly. A track and field long jumping quote that takes on a significantly more important meaning for athletes who compete in unified sports at the high school level in Indiana. And to support the mission of unified sports, a group of high school coaches and administrators from throughout Indiana has come together to form the nation's first ever Unified Coaches Association. Bill Benner has more in this week's Inside Indiana Sports. Bill?
Gary, thanks. Since holding the first ever United Track and Field State Championship in 2014, the Indiana High School Athletic Association and Special Olympics Indiana have been at the forefront of athletic opportunities, pairing athletes with disabilities with their school peers. And the recently formed United Coaches Association of Indiana will attempt to further that cause. And joining us today from East Noble High School is Ryan Pepples, the Vice President of the United Coaches Association of Indiana. And Ryan, welcome to the program. Great to have you on, and thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Let's go. I know you've had a long association with athletes with special needs, but let's go back to more recently. What was behind the formation of the United Coaches Association?
Well, just collaborating with a number of other coaches over the years and ways to continue to grow the sport and all over the state. For unified sports in the high school setting. There were some coaches that came together at the Special Olympics convention about a year ago, and it was we kind of came to a census that an association would be a great idea because all of the other sports at the high school level have a coaches association. So it only made sense that the unified sports have a coaches association. So it just kind of snowballed from there, and we met. It was a long process, but it was well worth it, and it's official. So here we are.
Ryan, talk about your background in Special Olympics. I know you were a Coach of the Year at a few years ago, but you go back quite a ways with your involvement with athletes with special needs.
Yeah, so I've been an adaptive PE teacher here at East Noble for 16 years now, and we were part of the unified track and field program year one in 2014, and we've had every sport since the beginning. My wife is the Noble County Special Olympics coordinator, so we're heavily involved, and we really enjoy it.
Ryan, this is not only top-down driven. The IHSAA has been an incredible champion of unified sports program, but also bottom up. I mean, the IHSAA student athletes, and especially the Student Athlete Advisory Committee, have virtually been involved with this from the very beginning. So it's really a very broad-based program.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In 2013 timeframes there, just before the planning into unified track and field, Mr. Bobby Cox and his athletic advisory committee, they hit it out of the park with this one. So very pleased in what they've done.
What do you hope to, in the short term, at the very least, what do you hope to accomplish with the United Coaches Association?
Well, the mission or the goal is to support, inform, and educate current coaches that have a unified sports program within their school, within their building, as well as be a resource for schools that want to start a unified program. The IHSAA and the Special Olympics Champions Together program have done an amazing job at getting programs started. And we just thought, with a number of veteran coaches out there throughout the state, it would be great to have another resource to help with neighboring schools to get their programs up and running. Roughly out of the 410 ISHA membered schools, roughly 175 of those schools in some way, shape, or form have at least one unified sport in their building. So we would like to grow that number from 175 to, as high as we can get it. 410 would be great. So some of those schools have multiple sports, some only one. I know the ISHA and the Special Olympics of Indiana plan to have 6 total sports year-round, 2 in the fall, 2 in the winter, and 2 in the spring. There currently is 4, so it continues to grow. And the Unified Coaches Association of Indiana is just going to be another resource for schools all over the state to reach out to and build their programs.
Well, Ryan, we wish you all the best moving forward, and thanks for joining us today from East Noble High School, the Vice President of the newly formed Unified Coaches Association of Indiana. Ryan, all the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And Gary, back to you.
Bill, thanks. Great story. Before we go, I want to personally congratulate you and on behalf of the entire Inside Indiana business team on some big news. You made some headlines this week. Bill Benner, U.S. Basketball Writers Association Hall of Fame Class of 2021.
It was very much a surprise. I'm glad people have long memories and remember my sports writing days. I had great memories, and certainly the USBWA has been a significant part of my life. So thank you.
Well, it's richly deserved, Bill. We're very happy for you, and I'll be right back after this. Stay with us. Well, coming up next week, the Girl Scouts of Central Indiana have launched a first-ever collaboration with Grubhub to sell cookies in a creative, socially distant, and contact-free way. We'll have CEO Danielle Shockey on the show to talk about that, plus news from around Indiana. It's all coming up next week. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Gary Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.
Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick is a production of Grow Indiana Media Ventures with support from WFYI Productions.